Welcome aboard. I am Lynn Bacani. This is Maritime Viewpoints on Marino World Online. Joining us is Dr. Felicito Dalaguete, the Senior Vice President or SVP for Academics of the Asian Institute of Maritime Studies or AIMS. Welcome to the program, Sir Chito.
Hi, good day, viewers of the Viewpoint. Thank you very much for guesting me in this special event. I'm very glad in behalf of AIMS Management to share something that would be of interest to the industry. I will be very glad to answer questions from the hosts and discuss specific matters that will be of interest in this presentation.
Okay, Sir Chito, I would like to start with a famous quote from AIMS founder, Captain Felicito Dalagüete. We may not be able to change the direction of the wind, but as one family, we can always adjust our sails to reach our port of destination. Sir Chito, you were a trusted man of the founder, and you were with him when he established the school. Today, AIMS is one of the country's largest maritime schools. How do AIMS management, faculty, and students cope up with the challenges posed by this COVID-19 pandemic?
Thank you very much for allowing to share with you what transpired with AIMS since the pandemic in the lockdown. Let me tell you, Lynn, that the founder's philosophy is relative to resiliency of AIMS to respond any disaster or anything that will happen for a learning continuity of AIMS. Practically, when the lockdown started in March, we established AIMS strategic management, and we said that we are in the COVID zone. We know the practically that the COVID-19 scenario is up and down in terms of cases. So we said, by all means, we must keep moving and we must keep going. So in general, the AIMS crafted its business continuity management plan, or the BCMP. It had ascended during the beginning of the pandemic. These unprecedented disruptions of regular classes and restricted limited mobility of everyone brought the COVID-19 pandemic was a phenomenal challenge to AIMS academic community to innovate and provide the best efforts for teaching learning continuity to demonstrate without prejudice to the defined outcome-based standards.
Did the pandemic hamper or change AIMS plans and programs for both the students and the faculty development?
Practically, there is no change as to the plan because AIMS projected already a 10-year development plan. Then we have our 5-year medium-term development plan. When the pandemic came in, what were the changes are more of modality of the services. The online modality in the delivery of key programs and services were crafted by AIMS. Fortunately, AIMS started investing for the last 5 years our ICT infrastructure. In fact, we have our learning management system 2 years ago during the before the pandemic, and we only intensify it because of this online thing. There is no more face-to-face. So we are preparing or crafting a program. We term it as blended learning teaching flexible mode as the key features of AIMS learning continuity plan. So if we look at, if you look at what are other changes, AIMS after 3-4 months of our offering during the pandemic, we started profiling AIMS students and our interested parties, other beneficiary, in terms of connectivity with us. And we look at what are learning spaces, learning resources that we can deliver in terms of device, internet, home environment, mental health condition, addressing it for our students, and what are the socioeconomic impact. That's why we are asking who will need more guidance and support, what help, what differentiation of strategies that be most effective and how. And we did answer this by simply being compassionate to what happened. We did give discounts during the enrollment to our students. And we also look at their being compassionate on the extent of there were a lot of students without internet connectivity. So there were our faculty members are so compassionate in dealing with them.
But how would you react on the concerns raised on the impact of the reduced face-to-face classes on the delivery of quality education? Do we need a lot to catch up or fill the gaps?
Actually, when we know that when the lockdown was implemented, we did plan already for, first is how do we deploy our personnel and staff? So we did plan A, plan B, and plan C. So there were 3 plans of deploying our staff. Plan A, if the ITF declare MGCQ, then we have this compressed work week and work from home schedules. Then plan B, if the IETF declare GCQ, so we have skeletal workforce and work from home schedules for both teaching and non-teaching. And the plan C, we implemented also during that lockdown where the category is ECQ. We provide stay-in campus personnel in the campus on rotation. They will not go out from the campus. They are serving there for our online key programs and services. The learning continuity of AIMS practically is anchored on the basis of the IACS, the CHED, and the DOLE requirements. Remember that there were a lot of issuances from CHED, issuances from IETF, issuances from local government, and issuances from DOLE as well on how to address especially the absence of face-to-face. So with that, we were strengthening our health protocol standard requirements. And we are very supportive. We established a quarantine area. Then all other requirements to institute health protocol requirements. And we were alert also in this matter. And to date, our staff are, almost all of them will be vaccinated already.
Sir Chito, as an educator, how do you see the new normal in education? Do you see this pandemic accelerating the innovations that the educator should do?
There were a lot of seminars or webinars sharing information on what would be the future, even especially during this pandemic. On the part of AIMS, we look at it that there is changing learning teaching space. What learning we want our students to achieve and how we want teaching to be very effective under the online, remote, or the blended learning modalities. We look at, of course, the teacher as the facilitator, and we look at the educational technology as the driver. AIMS established a learning management system, and this is our 5th year already. We are putting in our learning management system the materials, the learning materials, learning resources, where the faculty members can create class collaborations, students can perform self-paced learning, and there are interactive activities, even to the extent of demonstrations, because we'll extend to the process of developing courseware, meaning capturing video materials, on subscribing artificial learning or augmented reality learning. Then we have this demonstration on cloud-based as well, because there is no face-to-face. So this school year, the declaration of CHED is very clear that the limited face-to-face is by program application, by discipline. We remember that the first issuance of CHED is practically the medical courses and its related courses. And Maritime, as part of the resource persons of CHED, we endorsed already to the Commission in Bank the limited face-to-face for Maritime. In fact, it's being submitted to IETF for review and approval. And maybe this coming first trimester of the school year 21-2022, there might be limited face-to-face. It depends because there is still uncertainty on the increase and decrease of transmission of this COVID-19 pandemic. The overall concept of the changes really is how we will ensure the demonstration of the learning achieved by the students, how they will be able to perform skills as defined, and how we ensure that we are developing a positive behavior as expected during the face-to-face. All of these are in the face-to-face, and now in the blended learning, how will you ensure all of this?
I know you have a lot of international linkages. So how do these linkages support aims and divorce?
Linkages, when we started, there were few discussions, but towards the end of the school year, we did engage already our partners. In fact, we did already some deployment of our cadets for shipboard training. We did also look at deployment in other industry via, there are industry now offering also virtual on-the-job training. And we are now engaging with them and strengthening the process. And of course, all of these are driven by our learning technology, the educational technology that we are using now. And we are intensifying practically the capability building of our faculty members in relation to the capacity of our educational technology. And this will help us to expand our relationship. In fact, we did twice meeting already with World Maritime University, even during this pandemic. And we had a plan of coming up with a national webinar, working with them on a specific issue relative to this pandemic time affecting our Filipino seafarers.
So Chico, please give us a bit more of information about the World Maritime University of Philippine Alumni Activities.
Alumni Association.
The office is there in the building of AIMS.
That's correct. During the launching, we provided them an office for and even a research area for the World Maritime University Philippine alumni to be in close contact also with AIMS in terms of the project. And during this pandemic, they were not really able to maximize it because of the limited face-to-face. But meetings with them are still ongoing to really come up with a final webinar program with them. Practically, the linkages covers expertise of the World Maritime University in doing researches, expertise also of the World Maritime University in terms of resource persons for our graduate programs and for our technical requirements for our undergraduate programs. We also have discussions with the WMU in crafting short-term courses that will build up certain skill sets of our maritime Filipino seafarers in particular.
Indeed, Filipino seafarers have shown the world their competence, diligence, innovation, craftsmanship, and resilience as far back as the 60s on the foreign flagged vessels, increasing with the oil crisis of the 70s. But comes the European Union's European Maritime Safety Agency or EMSA fly in the ointment on Philippines' compliance with the STCW Convention. Let's hear Dr. Dalaguete's views on EMSA after the break.
Prolonged quarantine and isolation, repeated COVID testing, impossible travel restrictions, delayed crew changes. It has been a tough time for our seafarers, and it's not just a physical pandemic anymore. It has become a psychological, emotional one. leaving our seafarers with mental distress, worried, anxious, depressed, and in a prolonged emotional and mental health crisis. When the seafarers are in distress, the whole industry will be. What we see in the future are vaccinated crew with ease of travel along the ports and countries where there is timely crew relief and they are not afraid of losing their job. We are in full support for the fair future of our seafarers.
Hi, everyone. What a special day this is. The day of the seafarer, or shall I say the day of the hero? Yes, you are all our heroes. We commend your resilience, your hard work, your determination, and your leadership. We can't thank you enough for everything you do on a daily basis. We want you to know that we are always by your side no matter what. We're here to support you, we respect you, and we can't thank you enough. Be well, be strong, be healthy. We are one fantastic team. We are the OSM family, and it is all about people. It always has been, it always will be. It's in our DNA, it is our culture. Thank you.
What if I tell you that KSIM Connect has become a reality? It is the cloud-based ecosystem for maritime education and training, where Kongsberg provides simulation and services to all members. As an instructor, my main goal is to educate and train seafarers to acquire skills promoting safety, sustainability, and efficiency at sea. At KSIM Connect, I can efficiently manage my simulators, my exercises, and my students. In the exercise archive, I can store my library of exercises, and if I want, collaborate and share them with my colleagues or others in the global community. KSIM Connect enables me to give students access to cloud simulation, so they can train anytime and anywhere while learning at their own pace. In addition, I can explore the library of models and exercise areas, download or subscribe those that fit the learning objectives. And I can even order spare parts or a service visit if needed. Kongsberg has started to create the future of maritime education and training by creating the community where instructors can find news, explore and download available simulator models, distribute or share exercises that fit the curriculum. Imagine using KSIM Connect to integrate our simulators in the same virtual exercise environment, enabling students to train and interact together. It doesn't matter whether you're in Singapore, Australia, or in the United States. As long as you're online, you are part of the knowledge-sharing community. Kongsberg is shaping the future of maritime education and training by creating the community. Let's continue building this community together for the benefit of ourselves and the entire maritime training industry. Join KSIM Connect today.
are watching Maritime Viewpoints on Marino World Online. Joining us is a forerunner of Asian Institute of Maritime Studies, Dr. Felicito Dalaguete, AIMS Senior Vice President or SVP for Academics. Sir Chito, were you furnished of the Marina's comprehensive report to EMSA, seeking inputs to even raise standards for STCW convention?
Yes, Len, because I have the privity really of the results of the EMSA inspection, because I am one of the resource persons of CHED in the technical committee, which have been deliberating the findings of EMSA, crafting answers, responses to EMSA. And I was also part of the committee with the Marina in terms of the in their efforts to bring this issue to the public. I was one of the contributors also in giving some solutions. And with that also, AIMS is one of the schools being visited by EMSA. And during the EMSA visit, I was personally the one facing the auditor of EMSA, and in person, I know what they were thinking about, what they want to see from us. And I can simply say it that since 2006 inspection up to this date of 2020, practically it's 9 years. The last visit in this 2020 is practically a reassessment of AIMS, of our compliance in terms of the findings. They term it as recurring findings since their visit. That's why they want to reassess if whatever developments. But I have also knowledge that prior to IMSA visit, the Philippine government, the CHED and the Flag Administration, Marina in particular, have submitted developments, new developments insofar as compliance with the STCW requirements. We were talking of submission of some legal actions made. That's why itong 10635, the Executive Order 63, these are the legal aspects that we were submitting to them. And some operational level requirements, meaning the crafting of PSG, the latest of which that they are verifying is the CMO 67, the GMC 01, and the GMC 002. So ito yung mga reasons why the IMSA inspection has been conducted to reassess the compliance of the Philippines. I made a study and analysis of the findings from the national level and how it is being reflected on the institutional level. So on the national level, they were telling us that there are still inconsistencies that were identified in the monitoring, inspections, and evaluations conducted by CHED and Marina. And this monitoring inspection specifically, findings that lead to the recommendation for closure of MHEIs were of different types, not necessarily related, and several recommendations for closure were based on additional findings reported in the inspection. These are findings. The other one is the monitoring activities conducted evidence a lack of consistency and standardization in the reporting of findings, which raises doubts about the design of the monitoring inspections and evaluation. And even in the case of MHEI, and MHEIs that did not take corrective action after they were recommended for closure, the definitive closure could not be achieved. This MHEI continued to deliver their programs until the end of the relevant legal process. And they noted that since 2013, only very few number of MHEI had their programs closed. That's the national level findings. There is another one that they are talking on the national level in terms of the new regulations and approval activities of the curricula, the training assessment of the future and present officers in relation to the structure defined in the STCW. And they are saying that there are inconsistencies of competencies, and there are evidence of lack of methods, media, procedures, and course materials necessary to achieve the prescribed standards of competence. And in that sense, when they visited the school, it has been verified that several approved programs implemented by the higher maritime institutions included inconsistency of sequence of courses and topics, activities in learning outcomes, and the teaching examination methods. So these are some of the validation made in the school level from the national findings. Len.
So, in the latest Philippines response to EMSA, is there any part closing schools of alleged non-compliance?
Yes, there is a portion of the findings that I would like to share it, but the Philippine government, the flag administration should look at it carefully and analyze it. In fact, I have a certain analysis of this also. The question is there any part in the Philippine response to EMSA on schools, so closing of schools because of alleged non-compliance? So if you look at it from the perspectives of the findings of EMSA, there are recurring inconsistencies common even in the previous findings on the approval of the design of the curriculum, and in terms of recommendations for closure, they said that in their findings at the national level, there are some inconsistencies in terms of reported findings. And as they have said that if you look at why our flag administration would move to close down schools not complying to EMSA, is it fair? Would it be fair for the stakeholders closing? Definitely, they have the policies and standards, that regulations that mandate them for the closing, phasing out of the programs. But if we analyze the very intent of EMSA, why they are looking at the inconsistency of the findings, it's practically the reason why there are not many of the schools are being closed, because the reason that some of the schools are responding it legally, or if in fact there are alternatives that they have been doing and discussing it with the flag administration. To date, I understand that the flag administration are very keen on this matter of closing, phasing out programs based on the findings. Let's remember that the concern of closing does not end only of closing the program. There are impacts in it. Maybe the flag administration or the national government should look at it. In the first place, Philippines has been known as the #1 supplier of seafarers in the world in the early 80s. When we started building up our standards in 1990s, I know that because I've been with the Commission on Higher Education as early as that period. This is now my 3 decades as resource person of CHED, and I know what's happening. I have the privity of the development of the programs. So in other words, this closure are standards of closures are being intensified, not only of the MORPHY, the general guidelines of CHED, but on the basis of the IRR of RA 10653, the act designating Marina Single Administration, and Executive 63. These are the tools that enhance the possibility of improving the monitoring the efficiency and effectiveness of monitoring of marina. But in spite of that, there are still some concerns relative to, it's more, in my analysis, Lynn, it's more of, if we look at the phasing in of standards that are being implemented by Marina, almost in every 2 years, there are enhancements of curriculum. We can look at as early as 2013, there is a CMO of the new curriculum. Then moving towards after 2 years, CMO 20 in 2015. Then there is again another CMO 67 in 2017. And there is GCMC Series 01 on 2019. So on the average, every 2 years, there are new standards that being implemented. And it goes also with the monitoring instruments. There is such GMC 001 implementing CMO 67. And there is now being used also the GMC 002 for inspection and evaluation. And the issue now arises on the use of these instruments. Maybe the flag administration and Marina and CHID in particular should revisit these instruments, the efficacy of these instruments, and the timing of using these instruments. We are not talking only of a mere closing of the program. We are talking here of reducing the number of supply. When you phase out and close a program, you are putting the jeopardy of the school not producing anymore, because they will not be allowed to enroll, and they will be phasing out slowly the program. So we have to reflect our position. How do we want to come back in the arena of deployment of seafarers as number one? Do we still have that objectives with this kind of actions of ours? I remember also that there is a program from Marino part list, because they have also they are also familiar with what happened on the deployment of cadets on shipboard training, and they want this to be intensified by a Marina, being Marina as with the in the shipping industry control, especially in the local and some of our foreign shipping. With that, comprehensively closing or phasing out the program, not only affecting on the macro level, it affects also on the micro level. Seafarers being affected, who are alumni or graduates of these programs, will be affected as well, because that might reduce their employability because their schools are being phased out. Then, don't you know, Len, that there are now a lot of instructors coming in as an alternative employment because of the very slow pace of deployment. If you have read the news lately, there are about 100,000 seafarers stranded at sea beyond the regular stints of 3 to 9 months. According to the International Chamber of Shipping, many without even a day's break on land. And another 100,000 are stuck on shore, unable to board the ships they need to earn a living. I have a good number of my scholars who are deployed. They are now in the hotels, staying in the hotels by their shipping company for almost a month, awaiting deployment. And in fact, we went there and provided a food, because there's a problem also of their health. They are confined only in the hotel. They will not be allowed to get out from the hotel because of the deployment issue. Then protecting from the virus, of course, because they are ready for deployment. But the issue is they have been there for almost a month or even more than a month. So this can pose also mental problems of our seafarers. So maybe the flag administration, which I know with AMOSOP. There were some steps made by AMOSOP also to address these concerns. But remember, this is a new data, Len, that they said India and the Philippines, both reeling from vicious waves of COVID-19, account for more than a third of the world's commercial seafarers. It's in the publication, Len. This is said by Guy Platten, Secretary General of the ICS, which represents over 80% of the world's merchant fleet. So you can imagine the competitiveness of the Filipino with the Indian seafarers. So we have noticed also that India has some problem with the COVID-19. This is the opportunity for our Filipinos to come in on a bigger scale of deployment. Maybe our flag administration and the government should look at this. They are even asking that a declaration that the seafarers are essential workers because of this problem. Many ships are afloat. They cannot discharge on port because of the restrictions. And with that, they are extended even beyond the 11 months standards of the employment of our seafarers on board, stay on board. So more of them are exceeded these standards. So with that, I think we need to look at, the flag administration should look at this on the micro level also, the impact to our Filipino seafarers. So the phasing out and closing would be an add-on agony. That there is a present problem of this brought about by this pandemic, and now we are putting more problems on possibility of affecting our Filipino seafarers both in the macro and in the micro level. That's Len.
Do you think, Sir Chito, the Philippines is most likely to be banned by the European Union? The COVID pandemic just delayed the wallow.
I cannot have a conclusive statement for that. But if you look at in their intention of visiting, the last visit in the Philippines that they are saying is there is reassessment of our system after 9 years. So whatever compliance, which I think the flag administration, Marina and Jed in particular, in terms of education and training, they are now sharing these issues to the public. Our administrator would want this to be resolved, meaning I think it's part of the objective of the Marina administration, the ownership of the policies and standards. And we are very happy na this kind of direction would continue, so that even the MHEIs would love to own policies and standards that are not only favorable to the business of the maritime industry on a macro level, but will help also the burden of our Filipino seafarers in particular. So I think the decision whether the Philippines would still be recognized, there are some due politics in it. And it cannot be a conclusive thing for that.
I'd like to ask your quick response on this. The Philippines education is based on the American system, while EMSA adheres to the European system.
I've been with education, in higher education, for almost 3 decades. 5 years ago, we started shifting to outcome-based. When we say outcome-based, these are competency-based. These are European model. So slowly, we are enhancing our Philippine system, not only in higher ed, even to the extent of our secondary education, our primary education, the basic education in particular. We are slowly also shifting to outcome-based to address also the requirements of the higher education level. So partly yes, but we are now enhancing it. At a certain period, we will be able to really look at international standards, coping up with international standard requirements.
Another thought-provoking question, the EMSA audit, boogeyman or bogus threat, or a catalyst for change in the country's education system?
For me, I look at it as a change for us to further innovate, to further develop. But that should be a perspective of our flag administration as well, the developmental perspectives of the coming of EMSA, but not putting our industry as a threat because of this EMSA. It should be developmental in nature, and their coming is to help us. The concern really, Len, is more of, will the Philippines be in the whitelist of the IMO? Because EMSA is only a part under Regulation 110, verification of standards of other countries of interest. But our concern really is compliance with the whitelisting. There should be the flag administration should look at it, the entire, comprehensively, our compliance to the whitelisting of the IMO.
And what do you propose to address these EMSA findings or meet the STCW standards?
In my analysis, I did already recommend from the perspective of an educator and looking at the regulation of the STCW. It is very clear in the STCW Regulation 2.1, Regulation 3.1, Regulation 2.2, Regulation 3.2 for management level. Here in the Philippines, our design, we have operational level covering standards and certifications on Regulation 2.1, 3.1 for operational level. But as part of our design, which there is something that we should look at it because it's part of the findings of EMSA, we are putting in our standards some knowledge and understanding of the management level, Regulation 2.2 and Regulation 3.2. In fact, since the inspection of EMSA, they are emphatic about this. Why we are putting management level in this perspective? Because the latest finding, the same. They have noticed that of inconsistency between our articulations of Regulation 2.1, Regulation 2.2, Regulation 3.1, Regulation 3.2. For me, let's stick to the very structure of STCW, education and training for Regulation 2.1, 3.1. Then there is an education and training for Regulation 2.2 and Regulation 3.2. That will clear our side in addressing table of standards in the STCW code.
So Chito, any special concerns you still wish to express or elaborate, please?
As an educator and a practitioner in the academic institutions for 3 decades, a deeper understanding of producing Filipino seafarers and looking at the product of the institution will not be dependent only on a certain of the findings in the inspection. There are 10 areas of the inspection and evaluation, monitoring of our flag administration, CHED and Marina, and there are minor compliance that could be addressed on a developmental perspectives that will not warrant a closing of the program because of the impact. You can just imagine that there are big schools, there are schools with level 3, level 4 accreditation of the PACOCOA, which many of the schools believe that this accreditation standard is leading to quality as well. But they are affected by some of the policy guidance, rules and regulations in our existing standards. Just to give a typical example of this is the voluntary closure of TIP, Technological Institute of the Philippines. They voluntarily closed their program in marine engineering, maritime. They are level 4 in Pacocoa. Almost all of their programs. In fact, they are deregulated status. The very concern that we have is the standards of the flag administration using performance in the deployment of cadets. I know PAMI has been working closely on this, that it is not in our hand in the institution in terms of targeting number of deployment of cadets, because it depends on the scenario of the industry, the demand of the industry as well. But targeting it from 40% when we started, then it's moving towards 80% deployment of your graduate. That's something that the management, the flag administration and CHED would look at it. And these are the very concerns of the school that we should look at. Because sometimes we provided standards and policies that with ourselves, the MHEI, the flag administration, cannot effectively and efficiently address it. So we have to look at some of the standards that we are crafting and designing, that it is doable from the perspectives of the macro and the micro level. That's all, Len.
Thank you very much, Sir Chito, for your time and sharp views.
In behalf of AIMS management, and of course, I also consider myself as part of the resource persons of CHED, working with the government for the standards of maritime. I would like to express my thanks for sharing with this viewpoint in terms of my privity to the standards, to the development of maritime education and training, and my thoughts relative to what's happening in our industry. And I would be willing to continue serving maritime education and training to the best of my interest and to the best interest of the industry. With that, Len, congratulations for this kind of program. I think this is a laudable program for the viewers, not only ashore, but also on board. Many of our seafarers would be very happy to view this, especially in this time of the pandemic. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Felicito Chito Dalaguete, Senior Vice President or SVP for Academics of the Asian Institute of Maritime Studies or AIMS. Thank you for watching Maritime Viewpoints. I am Dean Bacani. This is Marino World Online.